Hello, welcome to this video, which is going to be a quick introduction to a new product to me. I've had some water-based stains sent to me from a company in Australia, so perhaps this is of special interest to those of you in that part of the world where you can get these stains. Perhaps they'll be available in the UK one day. You'll have to watch whatever space that is. Right, so I'm going to do some airbrushing with them, but I've got a very exciting way of applying them, which I'm saving for a little bit later. So I've just got some yellow in the airbrush. I've not used it at all. I'm just going to crack straight on and see how I get on with them. Let's bring you a little bit closer to what I'm doing. So I'm just going to try out a few of the techniques I've used with other stains, and especially with the spirit stains, which are my favourite ones to use. But we'll see how this works. They're very strong, vibrant colours. So we can see we get the nice gradient effect. I go a little bit closer, running along. Very nice, strong and bold colours. I'll give you a slightly different view. If we come onto the tailstock camera, I'll give you a moment while I just zoom you in and get you a bit closer. I've updated Windows and it's lost all of my custom names of my cameras, so none of my filters are working as well as they ought to. Now what we see here is something that for me is a reason why I prefer the spirit stains. It's sort of taking a bit longer to dry in one or two places. That's not a massive problem though. Let's don't know why that's gone like that. There we go, that'll do. So I'm going to put a bit of red in now. I've still got a little bit of yellow left, so this will make it a bit orange, so we can see how the colours mix together. Just get the little bit of protective tape that was on there to protect it in shipping, and get a few drops in. There we go. I'm just going to backwash that a little. Now I was given a tip about not sticking the end of your finger over an airbrush. Reason for that is if there is such a lot of pressure coming out of the airbrush, it could penetrate your skin. So that's a little bit of a worry, because you don't want compressed air in your body. So just a bit of cloth instead, and I'll just gently backwash that and mix that with whatever yellow was left inside. That is a tip from Ruby Claire, so thank you, Ruby. Right, let's come back and see how this mixes with the orange, the yellow. Going to have to be a little gentler, working on lower pressure than perhaps I might use ordinarily. We've got a nice bit of blending there. And I'm not using my normal airbrush. I'm using a rather cheap little setup with gravity feed, but that's coming along quite nicely. Let's turn this round and get a little bit of variation in there. You know me, I don't like to keep everything looking neat and symmetrical. So you can see we're building up layers of the colour. Colour separation is pretty good. In the past I've probably been a little heavy-handed with water-based stains, and I've put too much on. Wouldn't really think that was something that I'd be guilty of, would you? Putting too much of something on. Right, okay. I'm now going to attempt to make black by putting some blue in with the red. I've only got 4 colours. I don't know the full extent of the range. I'm sure if you looked up Salisbury Crafts, you'd see the range of colours that they have. So a bit of blue, and again I'll do the backwash just to mix it with whatever's left inside. And this is perhaps showing that you don't necessarily have to clean out your airbrush between each colour. If you organise your work. That's looking pretty dark, so let's just get, got a bit of a blue tinge to it, but for the demonstration purposes, I'm not too bothered with that. Actually, some of you might even prefer it. Let's just boundary this with a bit up here. Right, okay. So quite pleased with the way that has worked out. Let's clean out the airbrush. Go onto the overhead camera so you can enjoy this once I've zoomed out and got you actually looking at my setup. So there's the little compressor, there's our piece of work, and here is my cleaning station. So cleaning out from one colour to the next is a case of just emptying out the stain that's left inside, and then a few quick flushes, swirl it around, and then we'll just give a quick blast through to clean it out a little into this cleaner. See the water there, see it going down slowly. This is not the quickest way of cleaning out an airbrush, but when you've got a great big cup, that will probably do. Okay, and so I work my way back through those colours, doing something slightly different. Start off with some yellow. And we'll do a little bit of a background covering. So let's bring you back to this camera. So coverage is good. I'm doing this from a little further back. I might just come in and do a little bit of yellow in those gaps there. Warm that up a little bit. Okay, so that's our first colour. Now, being water-based stains, they will take a little longer to dry. But let's just see. I'm just going to do some very quick test with putting some different colour ribbons. Now, that did not stick as well or as quickly as over a spirit stain, but that is probably to be expected. Right, put a bit of red in. A couple of drops. It's nice, you get quite a lot of control with how much comes out of these bottles. A bit more yellow to try to get a bit more of an orange kind of colour. Yeah, that's fine. So back onto our piece of work, and we've got yellow under there, so I'll just darken this up. And we'll get a bit of tape on it when it's dry. I'm doing this in real time. Let's see how quickly that has actually dried and whether this will stick yet. Okay, I think you might be able to see it's not sticking immediately. Oh, and I've got very mucky fingerprints on the tape there, so that shouldn't be too bad. Right, let's darken our colour. Make it a bit more of a solid red, so a bit more red going in. Just a few drops. Test it. Yeah, that's darker. So we'll just darken off this area. And I'm actually going to put a bit of heat on there to dry that before I put the next colour on. can see that that tape has lifted a little. Let's see how it works. Let's get that one running across there. Now that has stuck more readily. I haven't opened the green yet. Let's put a bit of green in. And that will give us a much darker colour. Blend it up. There we go. This is actually a better black than the blue. Interesting how it's beginning to mix in the cup a bit better. Coverage is not as solid. I'll try it over here where I haven't got any stain. You can see we've got a nice brown. It's not as solid a covering as up here for some reason. It's picking out the grain, sucking into the end grain a little more. And I think you know, that's one of the things about using water-based products over spirit-based, because the wood is water-based as well. It's a solvent for the stain. So that's why in the past I've tended really to use water-based stains for blending and moving washes of colour together. But there's a very exciting product I'm just about to show you with these water stains, so stay tuned. Right, where are we? Let's get back onto this. So we just pull this off. Got some nice effects on there. I'll come in on the tailstock camera, which is probably moved because my one controller has decided to control all of these cameras. I don't know why that's not moving down. Come on, wake up. It's going very slowly. Boring, isn't it? Get on with it, Stuart. Go down. Yeah, I want to bring you in close. There, so you can see what I mean here about the way the stain has been taken in with that really quite open bit of grain there. And this is what I was a bit concerned about. Quite a lot of run out. So obviously I'm a little heavy-handed with water-based stains. I mean, we can see that they keep a good colour separation with the first experiment with the pieces of cardboard. I've just put too much on and not waited long enough for it to dry. Right, but what do I really want to show you that I like about these colours? They come in a sort of, well, they remind me in fact of a board marker pen that I used to use at school when I was a teacher, with black cartridges in, but these are refillable with the stains, and so they allow you to do a little bit more doodling and playing around with the colour. So if I just take this, the red for example, I'm just going to freehand, you know, you can see it goes on very nicely, very controlled. I'm not the world's greatest drawer, but for doodling around they are fantastic. Let's do a little bit of colouring in. So if you want to use stains to create a more ornate, complex pattern or design, then these pens might be the way to go. If you're looking for something a little bit more abstract or artistic rather than the sort of patterns that I generally create, then you know, maybe these are something for you to have a go with. See, the colour separation is very good. I haven't had the it's quite an interesting effect actually, that area, isn't it? Keeps them bold, keeps them vibrant. Which one haven't I used? There's a yellow, and we can put the yellow right up close to the other colours. So you could have all sorts of fun with putting stain on in this way. I think these are fantastic. I understand from Salisbury Crafts these are their most popular product, and I can see why. They are fun. Now, I haven't obviously done a very impressive pattern or design, but you could use them if you don't have an airbrush. You could use them to put lines of colour on. Whenever you're using one of these sort of felt tip or nibbed pens, then don't have the lathe spinning too fast. It will quite easily damage the tip. You get quite thin lines. Always looks great when it's spinning round. Sorry if I'm hypnotizing some of you. Interesting effects that you can create. I'm going to have a go with the red in the gaps there, if there are any gaps. But again, you need to be mindful of putting water-based product on a soluble water-based canvas, as it were. Some quite interesting effects there. That's of my, my childish little scribble. Quite interesting with where the clouds were, and round here where some of the grain is a bit more open, and the waters of the stain is sort of being wicked into that grain. It gives a quite different effect. So there's just one other thing I'd like to do with these stains, because I don't want to keep you here all day watching stains dry, but I'm just going to do some washes and wipes of colour. Bear with me while I change my chuck. Actually, I think I might just put a different bit of wood in there. I think this has been got ready. Yeah, there we go. So I'll bring you in close again, and we'll do some wiping of colour. Now you can get little squirty nozzles to put inside the bottle to squirt the colour out. I've only got one of those, so I'll get by with putting colour onto the cloth instead. Boom, 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 boom. There we go. You'll see a little bit more what I'm doing. So let's just get a bit on there, and then back onto this camera, zoom in a bit, and we'll just mix a little bit of that in. And I might only do half of this blank just to show you how we can blend those colours in together. So using the same bit of cloth, because yellow and red will make a sort of orange, a nice harmonious colours. And then we'd pop a bit of contrasting colour in a moment. So one of the things I like about using spirit-based stains, and this is sort of me getting used to a different medium, is the way that they will reactivate each other and sit on top of each other. I find water-based stains tend to blend in a little more homogeneously, although there's a little bit of difference here with a bit more saturation with the red there. Okay, right, fresh bit of paper, and we'll have a go with a bit of yellow again before we put some contrast in there. Fresh bit of paper, or a fresh bit of the paper, and see what's nice about these. The other water-based stains I use, the Intrinisic Colours, more sort of earthy tones. These are a bit bolder and brighter. Definitely get some nice effects there. Now, you know, that's just a quick, speedy application. So there are one or two areas I would work on a little further, but this is just, I'm just having a play, just seeing what these are like. I'm going to put some green and some red together, opposite colours. You can see there we're getting a bit of black in there. I'm just going to fold that round and just do this a little bit more sparingly. I'd like to get a bit of the darker, a bit darker than that really. So let's do a bit more green. Okay, so I've flooded that more with some green, and then we'll try some lines and see how that dries. You can see it going on separate, quite distinct. As it dries, you see how they blend together, so you get a softer sort of colour going on. Right, we'll leave that a few moments to dry off, and while that's drying off, I'll just clean out my airbrush, because it's good practice. Keep your tools clean. You know from my other videos, the spirit-based colours that I use, I keep in an airbrush all the time, because I can reactivate them, reactivate them with some meths. Just check that that's coming out clean. But if you use water-based products, especially stains rather than paints, you've got a little bit longer before they dry and go hard on the needle. The stains is very easy to clean out. So I've got a sort of very nice autumnal glow going on there. Would be nice to have a bit of black. You know how I like to put a bit of black on things to really pop some contrast. But I've got somewhere a tiny little practice piece. So tiny I can't find it. I found it. Tiny little practice piece where I was using the pens just to try them out, and you can get some interesting little hatching designs, something a bit more abstract, but you can see how bright and vibrant they are on this little funnel. I don't know who made it. I found it in the workshop somewhere. Right, so let's get this off the lathe and give you a slightly closer look at it. Chuck key I didn't put back in the right place. I've got to remember all my good working habits, haven't I? It's been a while since I've been in here and made a video. So there we go. So autumn colours, I would say. We could have a go at putting a bit of black on there just to add a little bit of interest, but I think you get the idea of what these stains can do and how they're a bit different in the way they work as opposed to spirit stains. When that's dried properly, you get a nice shiny finish on it. Finish always raises the quality again, and I certainly think this needs something with a bit of shine over the top. But I'm very impressed with the warmth and the vibrancy of the colours. So Salisbury Crafts, thank you very much for sending me these stains to have a play with. If you are in Australia, then you will be able to access them. Until then, so if you are in Australia, you will be able to access them. You saw that if you're going to use them with an airbrush, very light pressure, very light coat, because they're water based and the wood is water based. You put too much on, it's just going to, oh hello, I like this. You can dissolve yourself in me in a way that oil or alcohol based products don't. But that's got a nice glow to it. I'm going to destroy it now while we get ready for the closing credits. Can't help myself, can I? It's not quite true. So they're going to be a little bit uneven. But putting on rings over a busy background can often be a good effect. And then I like to, as you know, as you've seen in other ones, I'd come along and put some lines between them. Breaking it up, not trying to do anything that's too symmetrical. Of course, you know my aversion to symmetry, and again it's about learning how long you can hold something there. I did better out here, but these first three rings I kept the pen on the wood far too long, unless of course you want that crude jagged edge, which I'm not too keen on. Trying to keep these lines at roughly the same sort of angle. Bit different, isn't it? Playing around now. Now this would be tricky to do with an airbrush without doing a lot of masking. Now there is perhaps in a future video I'll have a go with these with some pyrography, and pyrography will be a nice way of stopping colours running. Let's do one out here. probably coloured in the best ones now. Let's do a bit of green. I think that needs a little bit of, sort of charge the tips by depressing them. I'm not sure this one has actually been properly charged. That's better. So a bit more sort of controllable than a paintbrush, certainly in my hands. They really are a good little doodling. Here's the dark blue. That's going to introduce a little bit of a negative space. Let's try and see if I can spin it a little bit faster and see if I can do a line without getting too much bleed. Right, so that was held on for a much shorter amount of time. See, cleaner kind of edge, little uneven because of the blank not being perfectly centered in there. But even though that went on a bit quicker, you can see there we've got that bleeding. But if you were to play around, let's see what happens with those as they dry. A little bit of bleeding into themselves again. If we do dots, again you're getting a little running at the edges of the colours. But I like the freedom these give you to keep trying things out, just playing, which, as you know, is one of my favourite activities. Bum 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 bum. Quite like having these little different sort of little windows to try different patterns in. I don't know how well this will show. Oh, pretty well. It's a little lacking perhaps in finesse. That's more my application method, I think, than anything else, and lack of drawing skills. Let's do some little circles around here. This one looks useful for little dots. And of course I haven't let there be much drying time between putting these colours on. But getting there. I think I want to do something round this side, maybe with a bit of green, something a bit softer. Bum bum bum. Maybe a red dot in between them. So you can see the fun you can have playing around with these. Electric purple. Now it says, I'm a bit annoyed that I coloured that one in solidly actually, but there we go. Win some, lose some. I've been doing a lot with dots lately, so let's do some dots. They say beauty's in the eye of the beholder, don't they? Oh, got a bit of a stiff neck. Let's do this. A few dots around the edge here. Tie that in, reflect the inner circle. So this has been a fun, how long have I been recording now? Who knows? 38 minutes. A fun little play. Giving me some ideas. I've been meaning to try something out like this with little windows that you can play around with for some time, so it's been good to have this opportunity to play around. So nearly all the way round. It won't be to everyone's taste. I don't myself necessarily think this is one that I would keep. There are a few things I'd like to do a little better, but unless you actually spend time playing, and that's really the thing I always impress upon anyone having the misfortune to watch one of my demonstrations, unless you give yourself time to play with things, you don't really know what you can do with them and what's possible and what needs to be done a little bit better. And in the spirit of showing playfulness, here's a poor little piece of wood that I've been trying a few ideas on that might feature in future videos. Playtime. Right. That will look different with a finish. Alexa, what's the temperature in the shed?
The shed temperature is 10 degrees.
10 degrees, still not quite warm enough for putting any lacquer on. So I might heat it up with a hairdryer to dry it off, put some stain. I'll put stain on it already, it's covered with stain, doesn't need any more stain. Might need a bit of sealer and then a bit of lacquer just to get a bit of a quick cheat shine, for a few more interesting shots at the end. But thank you to Jason at Salisbury Crafts for sending me the stains, and I especially like these pens, they're great fun. Until next time, thanks for watching.